Alright, I think, in my opinion, that this build that I cooked up here is most likely going to be the most broken build that you can play for any kind of heist in the current Armor 2.0 meta. It has basically everything in it, so you're doing a ton of damage, you don't have ammo issues, you don't even need armor, but you can take armor if you want. You just gotta mix it up a little bit. It's health focused, it helps you if you go down or if your teammates go down. You tank bulldozers, you tank snipers, yes, entirely. Like, they can snipe you as much as you want, it doesn't matter. And you can also shoot them properly. But yes, this build does include the marking thing. Although you don't necessarily have to do it, it just helps. It basically helps you to stay alive in the end. But we'll go through it one by one just to understand like what's going on and how it works. I'll hopefully throw in some clips so you get the idea of how it works with the snipers. The bulldozers you should have probably already seen with my previous build, the allowed CQC support build. I have since renamed the video to it. So you should get the gist of how that works with the bulldozers. I essentially just enhanced it to make it a bit more reliable. But let's get through it. Let's start with the weapon. We go with the FSA. That's probably fairly obvious. Although it might have a few things in there that you're maybe not using. And we'll get into that. But the FSA, the reason you pick it is because it one-shots everything except bulldozers, in which case it's a 3 or 4 shot. Depending on whether you have Painless Embolia with Edge up or not. Painless Embolia requires you to have Adrenaline and Edge, and the buffs get doubled. And that way you will be able to 3-shot the bulldozer to the face. That's how ridiculously strong it is. And it one-shots everything else. Literally. Sure, if you're a little bit on a distance, you might have to put in 2 shots. But generally speaking, you're up close in the enemy's faces. Like, literally, you're standing in the bulldozer. And you just 3-shot him to the face. And he won't be able to kill you. And if there is a second one, he won't be able to kill you either. It's that broken. Anyways. The FSA, most broken thing. Never runs out of ammo. It's sometimes even difficult to even keep the buffs up because you just never lose ammo. So you need to lose ammo to keep the buffs up. But yeah, we're going with ranged barrel. Reason being damage distance and reducing the spread. We don't want the exact opposite a bit, so yeah, that's kind of obvious. Then the magazine. Usually people go with extended mag. In this case, you just don't need it. It's a penalty. It doesn't make sense that you have 15 bullets in the mag if you have ammo funnel that just completely fills up the mag like constantly. On top of that, the extended mag has a penalty on your reload speed, which is exactly what you don't want. You want fast reload, so you want quick pull mag. A side effect of the quick pull mag actually is that you pick up even more ammo. You can have more max ammo that you totally don't need because it will be on max ammo anyways. But on top of that, every little ammo pickup thingy gets boosted too. It's like that for every weapon. If you use a quick pull mag, if it has one, you pick up more ammo in exchange to having a smaller mag usually. But that's just the way it works. So quick pull mag is the way we go. Then for stock, we're using the TQ just to get the recoil down once again. With only targeting speed, we're always going to hipfire. For the sight, since we're not going to use it, we're just taking one that reduces the recoil, and the protection RDS is the one that's the most beneficial in that regard. Then the barrel extension, we need a silencer anyways for the adrenaline stuff to happen, so there's only one choice, which is the Obelisk silencer. And then the grip, in this case, we're using a Biofit grip. They're potentially, except for the middle one, the perforated grip. You can maybe go for both, since with the swap speed you can get edge a little quicker. However, it penalizes your hip fire spread, which is not necessarily something you want. You want to be accurate with your guns, so that's why we prefer the Biofit grip here. And for the vertical grip, we're actually taking the Stub grip. Often we're using the angled ghost grip. In this case, I actually opted in for the Stub grip just to get the hip fire spread away. But if you want, you can test around it a little bit. You can also go for the angled ghost grip, of course, that's up to you. that's it for the main weapon. The secondary weapon, I looked around a lot to figure out what would be the best pick. Most people just opt in for the joysticker at the moment, since it's pretty strong. I mean, it's 3 shots to bulldozers. However, you have a problem here. You need something to shoot enemies far away, specifically snipers. The FSA can do it, but it sometimes takes quite a while to take them out. I've been messing around with the Deagle a little bit. It works. The issue is it seems fairly inaccurate. Even though the accuracy is super high, it felt fairly inaccurate, specifically because snipers tend to hide behind fences. And once you shoot with the Deagle, it has such an abysmal recoil that it's tricky to land a second shot. Therefore, what I eventually settled with was the Stryk, my go-to gun, like for stealth. For some reason, this thing just doesn't have, like, barely doesn't have any recoil. Sure, it doesn't do crazy amounts of damage. You probably need 2 to 3 bullets to kill a sniper, unless you hit the head. However, it's that point accurate. And you can, like, easily get the snipers on, like, Road Rage, for instance, that are super far away, or the ones on Golden Shark at the top of the roof, or even the ones on 99 boxes sitting on the roof. In my eyes, the Stryk 7 felt to be the easiest to use. Also, for the FBI van, in case it ever shows up, use the pistol, not the shotgun. The pistol is stronger. It takes about 7 bullets to destroy the satellite with the pistol, and the Stryk is incredibly quick in shooting. While for the FSA, you usually need to dump an entire mag into the satellite. So that's why I recommend using the Stryk for the FBI van, in case it does show up. For the mods, in this case, we are actually using the extended mag. You can, if you want to go with quick pull mag. It's literally just that I'm never really reloading the pistol. I'm only using it for the snipers. So I'm only really quickly swapping to it. I don't really care about reloading it, and then I swap back to the shotgun. And also the FBI when there's only one of those, so it felt more comfortable for me to just use the extended mag in this case. Then, once again, of course we are going to use a silencer. We can choose between Snub Silencer or Obelisk Silencer. In this case, the Obelisk Silencer is slightly better just because it has that overall spread thingy. The damage distance, as far as I know, doesn't matter. Like, you're still going to 2 or 3 shot the snipers no matter the distance. I haven't really tested it though, but I'm fairly certain that it doesn't matter damage-wise. But feel free to test out the Snub Silencer if you want. I'm just used to the Obelisk Silencer at this point because I've been using it since the beginning of the game. Sights, we're using the Slate RDS here. You could go for something else. This is basically just my default pistol that I use normally for stealthing, in which case I do zoom in to get a potential kill. In theory, actually, you can also use it to zoom in and get the snipers too, so if you feel like your fire is missing, feel free to zoom in and kill them real quick, in which case the targeting speed comes in handy. And then finally, for the grip, we're using the ripped grip, because the other ones didn't really seem to matter much. It's just to get that recoil a little bit down, as well as the gun kick. Then, guess what? The overkill weapon, or I guess the overskill, is once again Sociopath, aka the Bat, just because it's so ridiculously strong to kill everything. But hypothetically, you can use whatever you want. Main feature here is just being immune to damage and being able to heal up your health a little bit in case you don't want to mark stuff. So it's just an overall very, very nice thing to use. I guess if I would not use the Overkill weapon, not the Sociopath Overkill weapon, I would probably go for the HET. Simply because it can also clear out waves of enemies pretty quickly as long as you hit them. Then, armor. That was quite a debate here. I used to run Medtach frame adaptive for a long time and it felt incredibly strong. This is exactly what I used in my cook-off run and might potentially still be useful in the cook-off build. It actually also works in this build. It changes how you have to play though, and in my opinion, it is slightly worse than using an Medtach frame with impact armor. I will get into the exact reasoning as to why once we get to the skills. But I guess the key takeaway here is that the impact armor always regenerates no matter what, while for the Medtach frame, in case it does break, you will have to repair it in one way or another. That's kind of like the key takeaway here. And which is why I'm using Impact at the moment, even though I get a penalty for the regen time. We'll see how completely irrelevant that will become once we're getting into the skills. But yeah, in this case, Medtach Frame, Impact. We're also going to be taking use of the passive ability. First aid kits replenish an additional 40 health points to keep you alive for longer. Hypothetically, it doesn't even matter if you use first aid kits. You can even actually go for armor repair kits. And then the question pops up, but why would you use armor repair kits if your armor is going to regen anyways? Well, the thing is exactly the regen time, right? It's 3 seconds. So if you want, you can use an armor repair kit to bypass that regen time whenever your armor breaks to instantly completely fill your armor in case you're in a like juicy situation against some enemies. And in fact, that will actually cause a few other side effects that might come in pretty handy once we get to the skills. Medtach Frame, Impact Plate is what we're using. As our throwable, I prefer the Flashbang. Hypothetically, the smoke grenade works too. In theory, even the frag grenade, but I recommend the Flashbang grenade simply because it instantly stuns any kind of enemy except for the bulldozers, and it marks them instantly. While it doesn't last as long as a smoke grenade, I believe the smoke grenade lasts for like 12 seconds. I think Flashbang is, I think, like since it's instant, it's only the amount of time the enemies are marked, which is like 10-ish seconds, probably not even. But it's mainly for the stunning ability to get yourself out of a tricky situation. That's why we're using the Flashbang grenade. As our deployable, we are definitely going to use the medic bag. We are not using the armor bag in here. The armor bag makes absolutely zero sense to use because you have already the impact plate on you and you have nothing to repair from an armor bag. It just takes too long to get there. Makes no sense. And we're also not going to use the ammo bag because we have enough ammo. And the sentry turret, I guess in theory you can use it if you really want to, but it doesn't really make much sense to me because the medic bag has a few key benefits. One of the main things being that, well, everyone can interact with it and restore it down. The restoring a down thing, in my opinion, turned out to be extremely helpful. Lots of people are still struggling with Armor 2.0 and are just going down. And they seem to really, really like my one single medic bag with 4 charges that I throw in there. So yes, I don't have 2 medic bags. None of these have more than 4 charges in it. It's just all you need. You don't need more than that. And it's a nice backup for your entire build later on as well. And then for the tool, yes, of course, we are going to use the trip laser. I've actually been asked the question, why use the trip laser and not the motion sensor? Reason being, the motion sensor has a limit. As you can see, it marks up to 15 enemies. So once it has marked the 15 enemies, it's out and won't do anything anymore. The trip laser is permanent. The only downside, of course, with the trip laser is it's a line, so people have to walk through a line to get marked. While with the motion sensor, it's a little circle, a 3-meter circle around it. So, but because the trip laser is permanent, we're going to use the trip laser. And the others, they don't make any sense for us. Now, for the skills. Here's the interesting part. So, the classic Ammo Specialist with Scrounger. Ammo Specialist on its own, we don't really care about, it doesn't matter. But Scrounger is, well, one of the most required skills in this build, I guess. Since that just keeps your throwables up at all times. Keep in mind, though, it's a 10% chance. So, every, like, 10 pickup, you get 1 grenade. In which case, don't spam them like a moron. Just use these grenades whenever you are in a pickle. For instance, when you're in low health, or you need to revive someone, or just generally there's like a million cops. In which case, you just mark everything in the brunt and you stun everything in the brunt, which just helps the entire team. So, Ammo Specialist basic skill is only required that we can actually gain access to Scrounger. And here we already get to the very interesting topic here with Tank. I think most of the people still quite of just straight up overlook Tank on its own, the skill. Meaning that they usually just take Tank because they need hardy or they want more armor bags, in which case they take extra plates. And I think a few are actually still using armor up, even though I find that skill completely useless. Or last man standing, right? They usually just take Tank because they want either last man standing or hardy, often of the times. But actually, Tank is really, really good. It's one of the core mechanics that lets this build shine the way it does. The basic skill is already pulling down the regen speed from the armor plate from 3 seconds to 2.4 seconds. And remember, the snipers shoot at you after 2.2 seconds once they have charged the laser. Now, once they have shot you, the laser is not instantly up, they're reloading. So it takes a little moment for them to reload until the laser is up again, which in turn means it takes a single sniper longer than 2.2 seconds to even shoot you. It takes them actually longer than 2.4 seconds to shoot you, meaning if a sniper only shoots you, you lose your armor, yes, but you regen it before he can shoot you again. So the tank basic skill alone already counters a singular sniper. Of course, there's an issue that we usually have 3 snipers, and there's a couple places, especially in party powder, where you get completely flanked and you're getting shot by all of them at once. At least 2, normally. And here is exactly the reason why we ace the skill. When we're acing the skill, it says whenever one of your armor plates breaks, gain or refresh crit. And why is that important? The damage reduction doesn't quite matter for snipers in terms of using the impact plate because you still one-shot. However, the buff crit is what matters. Essentially, you're getting shot by the first sniper, you lose your armor, and you get crit. Even if you have crit, you refresh it. If you get shot again, which can literally happen in a millisecond, last man standing activates because you have crit. And this is the core reason why we're actually acing tank, because it's really important that we need crit. And the same kind of deal applies against bulldozers as well. If you, for instance, get stunned by them, we're getting to that point later, we're actually not going to get stunned that much from bulldozers. However, they can still potentially stun you if you like miss out on the edge buff. You actually still get crit automatically, and you still go into last man standing in case they shoot you right after. Or you have 2 bulldozers stunning you. Or you get stunned and you get swarmed by SWATs and they shoot you. Last man standing is completely broken in its current state, in my opinion, simply because it lasts by a default for 4 seconds. And on top of that, if your teammates are actually down, or well, you're the only player, it adds like another 2 seconds for every player that's either in custody or just down. Or kind of doesn't even exist. Which is fucking insane, so you can have this thing up for 10 seconds. You can be straight up completely immune to everything for 10 whole seconds. Except for the Cloaker. The Cloaker still downs you. But even if the Cloaker downs you, he can't kill you. Because of last man standing. It's freaking insane. I highly recommend to use last man standing in literally kind of like every build. And combine that with tank aced. Simply because you're just going to tank that shit. The only way to get last man standing back is either using a medic bag, guess what, that's why we have the deployable medic bag, or by using a first aid kit. And the funny thing is, right, we're using impact plates, so we'll go back real quick. The passive of the, not impact plate, the Medtach frame, yes, we're using impact plate, I mean the Medtach frame, the passive of it is that we're healing 40 additional health points. Normally you have 100 total. Because we have another skill, we have 50 additional. The point is, you're basically always healing yourself to full with just a first aid kit. And it makes the first aid kit way more lucrative because you are already using last man standing. And because of the impact plate specifically, we don't care that much about armor repair kits. There's still a bunch of people who absolutely love armor repair kits. So you don't have to worry about, oh no, this guy stole my armor repair kit. No, it doesn't matter, just use a first aid kit. And if there's no first aid kit, you can still use an armor repair kit, just for little backupsies. And you still have your medic bag with you, so you can still use the medic bag to completely refresh last man standing. So you have basically up to like 4 charges on your own. You can also bring the favor for an additional medic bag for another 4 charges to refresh your last man standing. So that's 8 charges, and then there's the first aid kits, which you can gain from just around the map or by trading civilians. So you're basically going to have permanent uptime of that last man standing at the end. Because it's just almost impossible to run out of that. But yeah, that for last man standing, most crucial skill in my opinion. Worth mentioning here as well is, let's put you in the situation that you're actually being sniped by 3 snipers. And you have some first aid kits with you. First sniper shoots you, second sniper shoots you immediately after you're into last man standing. You can then wait out the 4 seconds. since you are immune, the impact plate will regenerate after 2.4 seconds. So your armor is back. Meaning you tank another one. And remember, when your armor breaks, you gain grit. However, you cannot gain grit as long as you haven't used a first aid kit. So the thing is, like, you're getting shot by snipers, you get into last man standing, you use a first aid kit to instantly replenish the last man standing debuff, and once the next sniper shoots your armor, you gain grit again, and then when the next sniper shoots you, you go into last man standing again. So this is like an infinite kind of loop, so you have no issues against the snipers, which is what I've seen most people complain about, that the snipers are like the core issue. So that's why I highly recommend using last man standing. With adaptive armor, you would have a bit more issues because you don't actually get the armor back without using an armor repair kit. So you would have to juggle around with armor repair kits and first aid kits somehow if you wanted to use adaptive armor. Or you would have to spec into Hardy. However, it's a bit riskier because Hardy only lasts for 2 seconds for immunity, while last man standing is 4 entire seconds of immunity. So that's kind of like why last man standing is completely busted. Then we have 42 base, and we only really use 42 base because we want Painless Embolia. Painless Embolia has been buffed. The damage reduction to adrenaline is 40% now. I believe it used to be 20%. And on top of that, edge crit and rush effects get doubled as long as you have adrenaline and either of the buffs up. So that's exactly how you're able with the FSA to 3-shot the bulldozer into the face. Essentially all you need is adrenaline and edge. And then you 3-shot the bulldozer. But yeah, Painless Embolia, can recommend. On top of that, the grit, which is going to turn into a 20% damage reduction, is also pretty nice on the side. Then we have our classic transporter skills. Transporter basic, which is required for Beast of Burden, and Powerlifter, that allows us to carry 2 bags, while on top of that, not having a movement penalty. It's just a given nowadays. Then Escapist for the speed. So when we run around for 3 seconds, we get Rush, and then for Swift, we have 10% increased sprinting speed when we're masked on. Then we have the common mower, ammo funnel, and replenish setup, as well as the sprint loaded. Mower, just so we can actually use ammo funnel and replenish, but also to have a little side effect of also gaining edge here and there without having to actually swap weapons. We have every 35 bullets we spent, although this takes a little bit of time with the FSA, so we usually still just use the swap weapon thing from the Enforcer further below, from the Gunslinger further below. But mainly, we need to spec into Mower itself to gain access to ammo funnel and replenish, and I'm assuming you know how this works. You kill an enemy with edge, you instantly pick up the ammo, and it is refilled because of ammo funnel into your magazine, so you don't have to reload. So you can keep spamming that fire button. And sprint loader, because I just hate not being able to reload guns while I'm running around, so that just helps. Then we have Enforcer. Enforcer itself is actually very useful because as soon as you kill 2 enemies within 4 meters, you gain grit, which is our main income of gaining grit, which is then again our main income of having 10 to 20% damage reduction. But also we do need grit for combat reload, so that the gun gets reloaded a lot faster than normal, as long as you have H and grit up, as well as quick reload. Just so that we can like refresh the buffs, right? And then also have a quick refresh of the buffs. That's kind of like the core mechanic between combat reload and quick reload. But also we have Solid. And if you looked at the previous video, I already used Solid there, where with this, as long as you have edge and grit up, you can just straight up run into a charging bulldozer. You can sit in front of a bulldozer, have him kick you, and nothing happens. Fun side effect, if you use a meat shield and you get punched by a cop, nothing happens. It's just a little something I tested on the side. And I mean, the only thing you have to do is throw a flashbang and then you can grab a cop. So this could potentially be a nice little situation to like get out of a sticky situation, since with a meat shield you're just straight up almost immune. So that's a little nice little side effect. On top of that, you also are immune to the staggers from the shields, as well as the Grenadiers, although the Grenadiers are a slight little bit buggy sometimes, where they tend to die and then still explode somehow. My assumption is that they just went to charge a grenade, and somehow you just don't get... Well, you somehow are not immune against that stagger effect for some reason, but it is how it is. We'll take it against the bulldozers, which is the main feature here, as well as the shields. Then Gunslinger to gain edge whenever we swap weapons, and from the hip to reduce the hip fire spread, which is kind of like a common setup when you use CQC builds. Then Demolitionist, we don't really care about Demolitionist on its own too much, but mainly Overcooked so that the Flashbang immediately explodes upon impact, instead of having to wait like 2 to 3 seconds for it to blow up. And then finally, Assassin. Assassin on its own we don't quite care about too much, but Killer Kinesthetics, Assassin's Medal, and Death Knell we do. Killer Kinesthetics meaning whenever you kill a marked target with a suppressed weapon, another enemy gets marked within 10 meters, which then lets us use Assassin's Medal a little more. Also, Assassin's Medal has been buffed with Armor 2.0. It now heals 30 health as soon as you're below 75% health, and 5 health as soon as you're on top. Plus, it adds Adrenaline if you're actually over the max. And then Death Knell because of the juicy Flashbang to just mark everything for us. So that's kind of like the entire build. I've tested around with it a bunch. Again, as mentioned before, I used to run a very, very similar setup with Adaptive before, but to me it felt way better to use Impact to be able to ditch armor-related shenanigans, while still potentially being able to use armor repair kits. Plus, with the main core of medic bags, being able to restore downs, especially if you're playing with some people who may be a little bit experienced in the game still, which there is a ton by the looks of it. So it's a nice little side effect supportive build in my opinion. It's very, very good. Again, if you do prefer Adaptive, feel free to use Adaptive. You might have to respec a few things. But with the impact armor, it felt way more forgiving, as well as you just straight up do not have issues against bulldozers or snipers or anything like that. It might take a moment to get the handling going with how to keep edge and grit up at all times, but with a little bit of practice you will get into it, and you will completely destroy every heist and load. So have fun, enjoy this build, let me know what you feel about it. Let me know if you have any improvements potentially. I messed around with it a bunch, I couldn't find anything more. I would love to have things like Disengage or stuff like that, but there's only 28 skill points, and the setup I used felt the most proper in my opinion. So yeah, have fun, and hope to see you heisting.